Endangered species are living symbols of the fragile balance that sustains life on Earth. They are reminders of how interconnected all forms of life are and how the actions of humans can have profound effects on ecosystems, habitats, and the creatures that inhabit them. The story of endangered species is a complex one woven with the threads of natural history, environmental changes, and, most notably, human intervention. It's a story that has unfolded over centuries but has become increasingly urgent in recent times. Conservation efforts have emerged as a critical part of this narrative, as scientists, activists, and communities across the globe work tirelessly to protect and preserve the delicate biodiversity that defines our planet. In every corner of the world, from the vast savannas of Africa to the dense rainforests of South America, species are disappearing at an alarming rate. The majestic elephants, which once roamed in large herds across Africa and Asia, now face threats from poaching, habitat loss, and human-wildlife conflict. In the oceans, creatures like the critically endangered vaquita, a small porpoise found in the Gulf of California, are teetering on the edge of extinction due to illegal fishing practices. Even in remote regions, species such as the snow leopard of the Himalayas face challenges from habitat degradation and dwindling prey. What causes species to become endangered? The answer is not simple, as there are many factors at play, most of them tied to human activities. One of the most significant threats is habitat destruction, which can occur in many forms. Deforestation, often driven by the demand for agricultural land or timber, is a leading cause of habitat loss. When forests are cleared, the animals that rely on them for shelter, food, and breeding grounds are left vulnerable. Without a suitable habitat, species cannot survive, and their populations begin to decline. Urbanization also plays a role in habitat destruction. As cities expand, natural landscapes are transformed into concrete jungles, leaving little room for wildlife. Species that once thrived in large, connected habitats find themselves confined to small, isolated patches of land. This fragmentation of habitats makes it difficult for animals to find mates, food, and shelter. It also makes them more vulnerable to predators and other dangers. Climate change is another major factor contributing to the decline of many species. As the planet warms, ecosystems are being altered in ways that are difficult for wildlife to adapt to. Rising temperatures can affect the availability of food and water, force species to migrate to new areas, and even disrupt the timing of breeding and migration patterns. For species that are already struggling, these changes can be the tipping point that pushes them toward extinction. One example of the impact of climate change on endangered species is the plight of polar bears. These magnificent animals depend on sea ice to hunt seals, their primary food source. As the Arctic warms and sea ice melts, polar bears are losing the very platform they rely on for survival. With less ice available, they must travel greater distances to find food, which often leads to exhaustion and malnutrition. The loss of sea ice also makes it more difficult for polar bears to find mates and raise their young. The oceans, too, are feeling the effects of climate change. Coral reefs, often referred to as the rainforests of the sea, are home to a vast array of marine life. However, rising ocean temperatures and acidification are causing coral bleaching, a process in which corals lose their vibrant colors and become more susceptible to disease. As coral reefs die, the species that depend on them, from fish to sea turtles, are left without food or shelter. This domino effect has devastating consequences for entire marine ecosystems. Another significant threat to endangered species is poaching and illegal wildlife trade. Despite international efforts to curb these practices, many animals are still hunted for their valuable parts. Elephants are killed for their ivory tusks, rhinos for their horns, and tigers for their bones and pelts. The illegal wildlife trade is a multi-billion-dollar industry that not only threatens the survival of species but also undermines global conservation efforts. Poaching is often driven by demand in black markets, where animal products are used for everything from traditional medicine to luxury goods. One of the most tragic examples of poaching is the case of the northern white rhinoceros. Once abundant across parts of Africa, this subspecies of rhino has been driven to the brink of extinction by poaching. Today, only 2 northern white rhinos remain in the world, both of them females. With no males left, the species is functionally extinct, though scientists are working on advanced reproductive techniques in a last-ditch effort to save them. The story of the northern white rhino is a stark reminder of how quickly a species can be wiped out if conservation efforts are not implemented in time. Conservationists are battling these challenges on multiple fronts. One of the most effective strategies for protecting endangered species is the establishment of protected areas, such as national parks, wildlife reserves, and marine sanctuaries. These areas provide safe havens where species can live, breed, and thrive without the immediate threat of habitat destruction, poaching, or other human activities. In places like Yellowstone National Park in the United States or the Serengeti in Tanzania, conservation efforts have helped maintain populations of species like wolves, bison, and elephants. However, protected areas alone are not enough. Many species migrate or roam across large territories, often crossing political boundaries. This is why international cooperation is crucial for conservation success. Treaties like the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, bring countries together to regulate the trade of endangered species and promote the protection of biodiversity. By working together, nations can ensure that species are protected not just within their borders but across their entire range. In addition to legal protections and international agreements, conservationists are also employing more direct approaches to saving endangered species. One such approach is captive breeding and reintroduction programs. These programs aim to breed endangered species in captivity and then release them back into the wild once their populations have recovered. Zoos and conservation centers around the world play a key role in these efforts, housing breeding programs for species like the California condor, the black-footed ferret, and the Arabian oryx. While captive breeding is not a long-term solution, it can provide a temporary lifeline for species on the brink of extinction. Another innovative approach to conservation is the use of technology. From satellite tracking to genetic analysis, technology is helping scientists monitor endangered species and their habitats in ways that were previously impossible. Drones, for example, are being used to survey remote areas and track wildlife populations, while camera traps capture images of elusive animals like snow leopards and jaguars. In the field of genetics, researchers are using DNA analysis to identify illegal wildlife products and trace the origins of poached animals, helping to crack down on the illegal wildlife trade. Community involvement is also essential for successful conservation efforts. Many endangered species live in areas where human communities depend on the land for their livelihoods. In these cases, it is important to find ways to balance the needs of people with the needs of wildlife. Conservation programs that involve local communities in decision-making processes, provide economic incentives for conservation, and promote sustainable land use practices have been shown to be more effective in the long run. For example, in Namibia, community-based conservancies have been established, where local people manage wildlife populations and benefit from ecotourism. This model has helped increase the populations of species like elephants and lions, while also providing economic opportunities for local communities. Conservation is not without its challenges. In many parts of the world, conservation efforts are hampered by political instability, lack of funding, and competing economic interests. In some cases, governments prioritize short-term economic gains from activities like mining, logging, or agriculture over the long-term benefits of conserving ecosystems and biodiversity. Corruption and weak enforcement of environmental laws can also undermine conservation efforts, making it difficult to protect endangered species from illegal activities like poaching or habitat destruction. Climate change adds another layer of complexity to conservation. As ecosystems shift and change in response to rising temperatures, species are forced to adapt or move to new habitats. This can lead to conflicts between wildlife and human communities, as animals migrate into areas where they were previously not found. For example, as polar bears lose their sea ice habitat, they are increasingly coming into contact with human settlements, leading to dangerous encounters. Conservationists are now working to develop strategies that account for the impacts of climate change, such as creating wildlife corridors that allow animals to move safely between habitats or implementing measures to mitigate human-wildlife conflict. Despite these challenges, there have been many success stories in the world of conservation. One of the most famous examples is the recovery of the bald eagle in the United States. In the mid-20th century, the bald eagle population was in steep decline due to habitat destruction, hunting, and the use of the pesticide DDT, which caused eggshells to thin and break. Thanks to concerted conservation efforts, including legal protections, habitat restoration, and the banning of DDT, the bald eagle population has rebounded. In 2007, the bald eagle was removed from the U.S. endangered species list, a testament to the power of conservation. Another success story is that of the giant panda. Native to China, the giant panda was once one of the most endangered species in the world, with fewer than 1,000 individuals remaining in the wild. Habitat loss due to deforestation and the fragmentation of bamboo forests, the panda's primary food source, were the main threats to its survival. However, thanks to a combination of habitat protection, reforestation efforts, and captive breeding programs, the panda population has gradually increased. In 2016, the giant panda was downgraded from endangered to vulnerable on the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, Red List, a sign that conservation efforts are making a difference. While these success stories offer hope, there is still much work to be done. Many species remain on the brink of extinction, and new threats continue to emerge. The illegal wildlife trade, for example, has expanded in recent years, fueled by demand for exotic pets, traditional medicine, and luxury goods. Meanwhile, the accelerating pace of climate change is creating new challenges for conservation, as species struggle to adapt to rapidly changing environments. In the end, the fate of endangered species depends on the choices we make as a global community. Conservation is not just about saving individual species, it is about preserving the intricate web of life that sustains us all. Biodiversity is essential for healthy ecosystems, which provide vital services like clean air, water, and food. When we lose species, we lose more than just a unique animal or plant, we lose a piece of the natural world that contributes to the health and balance of our planet. The story of endangered species is one of both loss and hope. It is a story that reminds us of the beauty and wonder of the natural world, but also of its fragility. It challenges us to consider our place in this world and our responsibility to protect the creatures that share it with us. Through conservation, we have the opportunity to write a new chapter in this story, one in which endangered species are no longer symbols of loss, but of resilience and renewal. The path forward may be difficult, but with determination, creativity, and cooperation, we can ensure that future generations inherit a world where the rich tapestry of life continues to thrive.